Well, I tell you, as a dub, I'm an awful lot more comfortable standing up in Croke Park than I was sitting down. So, I'd like to start by thanking TASC for organising this conference and for their partners. This is a very valuable conference. I think it's important that we have an opportunity to review the progress of the Government 1 year into their term. The health service in Ireland is perhaps a very good barometer of where we are both as a society and as an economy. You'll often hear commentators refer to the supposedly high wage bill in the health service, and you'll hear the same people say that we can't afford it. However, the very opposite is true. We cannot afford not to have a health service, and we need workers to provide this service, and it really is that simple. So let's examine the health workforce. Who are they? What do they do? How are they working to implement the Government's plan, and how have their working lives changed in this past year? Workers in the health service, as in all other areas of the public service, are operating under the auspices of the Public Service Agreement, more commonly known as the Croke Park Agreement. This agreement was negotiated in the aftermath of 2 pay cuts, which our members suffered, and it would be remiss of me not to mention the hardship which they have undergone financially. This is true of so many sectors of the Irish workforce, but public servants very often get overlooked when commentators are picking those who are suffering as a result of the global economic downturn. In SIPTU, we represent a wide and diverse range of workers in the health service, and this gives our union a broad perspective on the Croke Park Agreement, the goals set out in their programme. One thing is certainly true to say: they will not be able to achieve the reform that they have set out without the workers to deliver it. And as a representative for workers across a range of grades who are committed to healthcare delivery and committed to patient-centred care, I often tire of the bad name given to vested interests. It's my firm belief that we all have a vested interest in our public health service, and in our health service in particular. The suggestion that workers in the health service reject or impede reform must be challenged. We see it in SIPTU every day of the week. We see it in all aspects of healthcare delivery. We see that our members are adapting their practices to suit service delivery needs, but we must not lose sight of the fact that these people are workers and they do have rights. They also have their own perspective on how their own area of healthcare can be reformed and improved. Reimagining healthcare delivery is one thing, but doing it on a cost-minimal, cost-neutral or even cost-saving basis is quite another. And yet this is the challenge that the Government have set for the health service and for those who work in it. So 1 year on, let's mark their card. Mental health services. Far too long the Cinderella of our health service. The blueprint for delivery of this service is Vision for Change. This document should cover the delivery of mental health care to our citizens, with the emphasis on community-based care and a move away from large congregated settings. And so in mental health we see the Public Service Agreement in action, but not, regrettably, in the delivery of the aspirations of Vision for Change, but rather the move from the community back into hospitals. The redeployment clause in the Public Service Agreement is being utilised to relocate staff from the community to populate rosters in the hospital. This is an example of the agreement responding to a need, but it is not the best use of the Croke Park Agreement. This is evidence that the agreement is serving to lessen the impact of the moratorium, that's true, but equally the moratorium is having an impact on frontline services and on the Government's plans under Vision for Change. We are acutely aware of the ability of other grades and disciplines to enhance mental health service delivery, and we have positively approached engagements on skill mix. However, if the main driving force behind the introduction of skill mix is to save money, then this is not a good place for us to start. This is not a good reason for reform. We are very much in favour of allowing professionals the time and space to expand their practice and to enhance the quality of care. We are equally committed to the development of the skills of our members in the support grades and to facilitating this group with an opportunity to enhance their contribution to improving their skills. And there is no reason why development and education should be the preserve of certain elite groups, and enhancing the care our members give and their role as part of the team in mental health is a very welcome and a very positive step. But we must acknowledge the pressure on staff to deliver more services with less resources, and we must be honest enough to say that reconfiguring work practices and changing models of service delivery, which are driven only by the calculator, will have a limited, if any, benefit. We need to hear from the Government what kind of health service they want and what service they believe can be offered to those who depend upon the service, particularly in mental health. We do welcome the commitment given by the Department of Health to the establishment of a separate directorate for mental health to drive this change and reform. And it's change and reform that we've been calling for a long time now. We're hopeful that this will refocus the attention on the mental health services. We welcome the recruitment campaign for staff in this sector who will be key to the delivery of this change. This is a sector which has been particularly badly hit by retirements, and we saw the figures that Lehman presented earlier, and staff in the HSE will be unable to deliver any of the targets set out under Vision for Change without these new staff. That's a fact. Home helps are another key group in frontline healthcare delivery. Castlebar General Hospital is a good example of redeployment and how this can work to enhance service delivery. You might have seen this issue reported recently. SIPTU has been at the forefront in calling on the HSE to utilise the provisions in the Public Service Agreement to avoid the need to outsource the cleaning of the hospitals, and the effective utilisation of home help hours is key to this. The redeployment of staff allows the HSE to live up to their commitments to the utilisation of direct labour to the greatest extent. That flexibility is there within the agreement to facilitate cross-sector redeployment. We are all aware that the Government has a stated intention to reduce the public sector pay bill, but we must not forget that there is very little point in reducing the public sector pay bill while at the same time increasing the spend on agency, contract staff and outsourcing. The Public Service Agreement is about maximising the potential of the staff that we have in the service currently and about ensuring that money is well spent. The commitment to direct labour contained in the agreement is a commitment to money being well spent and is a commitment to quality service delivery. We in SIPTU make no apologies for championing the cause of direct labour and by campaigning against poorly thought out outsourcing. The example in Mayo is one of maximising the potential of the Public Service Agreement to benefit the health service and health service delivery. The commitment to direct labour is one which will face significant challenges and one which is already coming under pressure. There is a reason why those with a vested interest in the delivery of health and social care campaign against the privatisation of services, and it is this. We believe that the introduction of the profit motive into healthcare creates a model which is not advantageous to good quality healthcare delivery. This is not to be confused with the notion that I and people like me believe in the retention of public services to support public service jobs. In fact, the Public Sector Agreement is the very antithesis of this notion, because it's about delivering services in a newly imagined health service and about our members changing what they do and how they do it to improve service delivery. So when we hear that private companies have created jobs in the care sector, let's make sure that we examine those jobs closely so that we can be certain that they are not public service jobs which have been handed to the profit-making sector. Let's make sure that we don't swap home help hours provided by those who are paid the recognised rate for the job. It's not a massive amount of money, but there is an established rate within the home health sector for the hours. And we must ensure that they're not replaced with hours where people are paid significantly less than the recognised rate for the job, a rate that is in fact closer to the national minimum wage. So let's make sure we're not fooled by those who tell us they can deliver services cheaper by paying less wages, because as we all know, the wages at the bottom might be low. The need to generate profit makes sure that there will be no savings to the exchequer. And what I mean by this is that we need to be sure that we're not simply chasing a reduction in numbers to satisfy a balance sheet requirement, when in truth this money is being spent in another way for potentially poorer value for money and poorer patient outcomes. We need to be careful that the Government, in their haste to reduce the public sector pay bill, do not privatise our health service. Likewise, the stated aim of the Government to move towards a system of universal health insurance is bound up with the notion of community service delivery and health promotion. These are very laudable aims, but there has been little, if any, progress to date. In fact, figures from private health insurance companies show us that there is a move away from private health insurance. This should serve to focus our Government's mind on maximising the potential for public services and also the need for investment in those services to assist them to achieve the potential. What that means in practice is that we can work with the HSE to achieve a greater match between service delivery and service needs. We are very interested in working towards a service which is available when it is needed and is available to those who need it, regardless of ability to pay. This is vital for those who we in SIPTU represent, who as citizens are potential users of our health service, and we support a single-tier health service. 1 year on, there hasn't been much progress on this front, but we will watch it closely to ensure that the introduction of universal health insurance is not used as a Trojan horse for the privatisation of our public health system. Finally, I want to leave you with one recent example of how this agreement is delivering for service users and how changes are being managed by SIPTU members who are reconfiguring their working to facilitate necessary changes. In the area of radiography, an agreement has just been concluded between SIPTU and the health service employers. There are approximately 1,200 radiographers working in the public health system. Service needs vary depending on location, and they can include services such as general, X-ray, CT, MRI, ultrasound, etc. Department sizes vary depending on the location, and staffing levels range from low single-digit figures up to in excess of 70 whole-time equivalents. So achieving any degree of standardisation in this group has been very challenging. SIPTU, on behalf of our members, have successfully concluded an agreement with the HSE, Department of Health, and the department now known as DPER, the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, which has reformed the pre-existing services to the public and will realise significant savings as a direct consequence. This reform is entirely facilitated by the mechanisms within the Public Service Agreement. The following major initiatives have been introduced. The introduction of an extended day, that's 8 AM to 8 PM, where service needs demand. Reform of the method of payment for after-hours service, that's from 8 PM to 8 AM, from one that was traditionally activity and speciality based to an attendance based system. National standardisation of leave arrangements for radiographers who provide a 24-hour on-call service. These initiatives will have an immediate cost-saving impact estimated to be in excess of €3 million per annum. And that's based on the previous expenditure figures. So when we're asked, as we are, on a regular basis for examples of the PSA in practice, I'm more than happy to provide them. It's not just this example that I've cited in the case of radiographers. Believe me, we're negotiating change on a regular basis, and we're using the mechanisms within the PSA to do this, whether it's discussions on the reorganisation of rosters for lab aides in Tala Hospital or the introduction of new rosters for care assistants in Peamount. We are engaging with health employers, and we are ensuring that we uphold our responsibilities as custodians of this agreement. But it would be remiss of me to leave you with the impression that the Public Service Agreement is a magic wand, because it isn't. The mechanisms are there and the will is there to embrace the kind of change which will enhance service delivery. However, we cannot and we will not negotiate change just for change's sake. And we equally have to acknowledge that doing more with less will only get us up to a certain point. Our members in SIPTU voted for this public service agreement, and we, like the health employers, are custodians of it. We have a vested interest in making this work, and for that reason our officials, our shop stewards, are engaging on a daily basis to ensure that this agreement delivers to its maximum potential and to ensure that all of the protections contained within it are used to the maximum extent by our members. We have already seen the contribution made by SIPTU members right across this country. We now need to see this government and the HSE equal our commitment to public services and the delivery of quality healthcare through our public health system. Thank you.